I'm David Klein, CEO and founder of Therapeutics.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for having us. I'm Anthony Costello, CEO of Medidata. And David, I think we've been through the title slides. I think you should start telling your story, and I'll chime in.
Okay, great. Happy to introduce Therapeutics. So Click really develops software as medical treatments. We just recently actually had the first ever FDA authorization for an app to treat migraine that happened about a month and a half ago. We're targeting essentially drug endpoints, but with software. We also have, in collaboration with our partner Otsuka, who's also based in Princeton, the first ever app FDA authorized to treat major depressive disorder symptoms. So it's really, as kind of Greg was saying, it's a changing world. I hope faster than 20 years, where he said it's certainly by then it'll change. And we're generally just thrilled at how fast this space is going and how AI is accelerating everything. We've got multiple pharma partnerships in different spaces, from again, depression with Otsuka. We have a couple schizophrenia partnerships with a company called Boehringer Ingelheim. And actually recently just took our Series C, which was entirely invested by Medidata and Dassault.
We're excited to be partnered with Click, and David and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and what the company is doing is just remarkably innovative. There's a few slides here on how the market conditions have created this opportunity in a way that's different than it has been, I think, previously. Click isn't the first digital therapeutics company. There's companion app companies and digital therapeutic companies all over, and many have not succeeded the way that we believe Click is positioned to succeed. And one of those reasons is that there's a different regulatory landscape now than ever before in order to enable what Click calls software-enhanced drugs, or drugs that have an app component to them. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about the PDURS guidance in a second. You want to do that first, and I'll come back?
Sure. Yeah. So, this is I think, a game changer for the whole space, and really how this market accelerates. And it's something called the Prescription Drug Use Related Software Guidance. And that guidance really clarifies that if an app, so a software as a medical device, demonstrates additional clinically meaningful benefit to a drug, that benefit can be incorporated directly into the drug label. Which for companies like us, and in particular us and us collaboratively, we're super excited about that. And it's not just for shareholder value. It's for the good of patients. It's for payers. It's for pharmaceutical companies. I mean, actually, as we speak right now, Click is at ASCO presenting data on our digital therapeutic, showing that in a RCT, we were able to statistically significantly drive outcomes in pain, fatigue, depression, anxiety. In fact, also at ASCO, you also saw new data from, I think, a 16-year-old study on exercise, and a RCT showing that exercise can actually drive outcomes in oncology. The exciting thing about what we're talking about today is that you can essentially co-package these. You can put exercise and behavior change and cognitive modification and combine it with drugs to create safer and more effective treatments. And pharma are doing that. Click and Medidata are in probably no less than 40 different conversations with pharma companies, some your neighbors here, some of your competitors in oncology, or in serious mental illnesses. And this is really becoming reality. The first, call it software-enhanced drugs, will be launched soon. And on top of that, they're leveraging these LLM models that Greg was just talking about to continuously make the overall treatment better and better over time. Imagine if BMS's next generation of treatments weren't the same effectiveness for 15 years, but actually got better and better as it engaged patients more to the treatments and got them more vested in it over time. And that's really where we're headed, and one of the reasons we're super excited to be establishing this with Medidata.
So I think this is a video of the latest migraine app that was just approved. So as David said, we think that there's an evolving market, very quickly evolving market for this now, and the reason that Medidata decided to make such a large investment in Click and really drive the next generation of their technology is because we understand that running these trials as efficiently and effectively as possible is hard. David's team takes your drugs and digital therapeutic companions all the way from discovery and research into configuration of the app that you see here, into clinical trial testing and feasibility, running the trial itself, and then taking the data and walking you through the regulatory process to finally gain approval for that digital therapeutic, which, as he said, can change the label of the drug. So our view of this is that it becomes a efficiency play and a speed play to be able to run as many of these SE products through real drug trials as possible. So Medidata and Click together will drop in a standardized Medidata package of clinical trial technology along with the Click novel app that's been configured along with your teams, and doing these things in parallel across as many of the sections of the industry that we touch, we think will be a fast track way to get digital therapeutics across the finish line. And that's what we're trying to do. I think, David, one of the key things that excited us about becoming more partnered with Click is the fact that these data out in the real world as part of a label are being prescribed, obviously hand in glove with the therapy, but also help us create an entirely new generation of real world evidence. Data about how the patient's using the app is a great proxy for how they're using the drug. And we learn a lot about behavior, that those learnings feed right back into the app loop for improving the technology. And you can imagine for diseases like migraine and depression, this app will go through generations of improvement, always launching a new, better version along the way that is inclusive of the learnings that happen from the field. So all of this real world evidence and pushing those data back through clinical trials when necessary to bring the best possible therapeutic to the patient is our goal, and I know the goal of Click since you founded it over a decade ago.
I'll say, part of the rationale of the Medidata Click partnership is, look, we see this space moving so quickly, and we have, we're probably on the cusp of announcing our first couple partnerships around these call it device combinations. And you have a company like Medidata that's really always been at the forefront of clinical technology, has I think you're in 8,000 clinical trials as we speak. And our vision and our goal for this space is really to help make digital part of standard of care. And that's what's really, at least excites me about this space. If you could take this migraine program, for example, we showed on average in our pivotal trial that the average patient went down from 7.5 monthly migraine days to about 4.5, right? Down 3 monthly migraine days, which was statistically significantly better than the control group, and is really, really meaningful to patients. And now, if you take outcomes like that and you look at all the other spaces that we're in, from, again, serious mental illness, cardiometabolic, inflammation, immunology, we're presenting, again, oncology data as we speak. We're really, really looking forward to a future where we can essentially provide options to really any pharma company or manufacturer to essentially have an SE, software-enhanced dosage form of that drug, just like you'd have a extended release form. It's a pretty simple process that pharma really understands, and for a market drug, it would be a supplemental NDA on something that isn't just good for patients. It's something that could enhance formulary position, increase prescriber preference, and frankly, even result in a less sharp of of a patent cliff lost, right? As people are on the SE drugs, and the payers, the providers, the patients might not necessarily want to take people off those as quickly because it's doing them so much good.
I think our time is almost up. So again, we just want to thank you for having us here today. Lauren, I know you spearheaded this for months to pull it together. It looks like a really exciting agenda. David and I and some of our team are here. Please come find us today if you're interested to hear more of this story, and I hope you have a great conference.
And I think we have questions.
Oh, are we taking questions?
We have a couple minutes.
Great.
Questions. I did forget to mention we do have this Slido tool, because there's some people on WebEx online that might want to ask questions, so they can submit them through Slido. If anyone's shy in the room, you can scan the barcode and ask your questions through Slido. But we also encourage you to raise your hands. So anyone have any questions? I see Viprali over there, if someone could hand her a mic.
For this. Yeah, okay. So one of the challenges in our field is regulatory and also user experience. So my question is for you for the migraine app. So when I'm having a migraine or my husband is having a headache, we don't want to look at the screen. Any light is bothering me. So what was your experience in testing this migraine app in these patients?
Yes, so that's a great question. If anything, one would argue that we test them too much, and you can't see it now, but you might have seen that kind of, I would argue, relatively ugly green color that the app has. And even the color is tested under IRB in all kinds of different user research studies to make sure exactly that it's not going to exacerbate migraines, as well as other things. Some of our apps might have animations, for example, and so on, where you'll get a much more kind of, call it, calm experience from the migraine app. To that end, it's indicated for and it just got FDA authorization through the de novo pathway as a preventive treatment for episodic migraine. So it's not necessarily indicated, although it is indicated to be used in conjunction with acute medications. The app itself is not for necessarily acute usage, although it does try to predict when somebody might be having a migraine and then try to help them stave that migraine off, actually. And we think that that's been effective so far. So, years of testing, of course, these don't take as long as drugs. And it probably took us, a little more than 3 years to discover, develop, study, and get this program all the way through FDA authorization.
Another question over there from Sebastian. I think he was first.
Hi, David. Sebastian from BMS. I used to be at the FDA in the same division which approved this product. So congratulations. Question for you, moving forward, are you thinking of integrating device sensor data into it so that you can personalize the experience for each patient? Because you're going to be getting that information. And kind of digital is a great place to kind of personalize that whole experience for the patient.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of why we partnered with Medidata are their broad capabilities, including with sensors in clinical trials that we actually intend to utilize to even go commercial in some of these cases. So we didn't put the sensor as kind of officially part of the program. Sensors is such a fast-moving area, right? It's by the time we took 3 years and studied a sensor that's on a watch, that could be a tattoo, or it could be an implant, or it could be, you're kind of born with these things, right? So our technology actually is designed to be capable, and is capable of inputting these data from pretty much any kind of sensor system. And we are really actively working, and we have machine learning models around just this, to input sensor data and also use that to personalize the experience. So the app is personalized even without it's just basically off the sensor data in the phone and on the usage patterns, but it can also be personalized through sensor data. And as you can see from my Oura Ring and so on, I'm a tremendous proponent of utilizing those kind of data to improve the experience and personalization. So. And thank you for your support while you were at FDA.
examples. Carolyn started, I lead a real world data company called Flatiron. I'm curious, for those of us who are slightly further away from this space, how are you seeing the regulatory and reimbursement pathways shaping up, and how does it look different than your standard drug go to market?
Yeah, I can take that. So look, part of the real excitement around this SE pathway is that, and the Peters draft guidance, is that essentially that software becomes part of the label. It's prescribed as one treatment. So there really isn't a reimbursement hurdle. The questions become much more around, well, can you increase the price, or should you increase the price? Because now the efficacy, let's say, is better, or it's hitting other endpoints that the drug wasn't. And these are complex questions. Actually, Click does a tremendous amount of market research, actually talking to payers and putting TPPs in front of them. And sometimes a payer will say, look, we're already paying too darn much for this drug. We're not ever going to pay another penny for it, no matter what you say, right? But then we'll go to providers, and the providers will say, look, if you actually hit these endpoints, I'd probably prescribe this, 40% more, 50% more, right? So there's kind of different angles here. Sometimes payers have told us, look, if you hit these endpoints, we could see us raising that price by $1,000 or even more. It also allows, all the benefits of these digital programs, as I think all of you know, is that it would also enable kind of, and I feel terrible talking about this because I feel like it's been talked about for 15 years and it's never really come to reality. But real value-based pricing could all, these digital programs could really facilitate that in a way that's not a hodgepodge of not regulated and all these things, but in a real kind of bona fide way. So that's one of our hopes too. But we've gotten all different feedback from payers, and you really have to aggregate the payer feedback, the provider feedback, the patient feedback to kind of see if there's a there. And we found that more often than not, there's a real kind of commercial story, especially if you look at BMS's drugs with Cobenfy and the new oncology asset you just had. I mean, these are drugs. If you look at schizophrenia, I mean, Click has published now, I think, 3 different publications on our ability to drive negative symptoms in schizophrenia, for example. There's all kinds of social skill training and other types of things that you can do for serious mental illness that a drug just doesn't do. So what we're talking about is really co-packaging those experiences in a way where you get all those benefits that everyone's always wanted from digital, but that's actually practical, makes the drug better. And I think that the patients of the future, and I believe Medidata feels this way too, are kind of looking for something different, right? Everything we do is technology, and whether that's we're doing banking or anything you do, but when you get your drug, you get a paper bag mailed to you with instructions, right? And I think that this really is the way to change that, and we do feel that it is changing.
To add, and I'm sure we're out of time here, so maybe we'll stop here, but the regulatory framework seems to have a willingness that wasn't there before. As David said, they've got a number of approvals now, which really is the telltale sign. But what we are also seeing with our customers is that there's a pharma willingness. And it really does come down to this PDURS guidance for a lot of people. Our first conversations usually go like, oh, companion apps, we've tried that, it doesn't work, or it's not meaningful. But when there's an appreciation for the fact that this causes a label change, this is an expansion of the therapeutic benefit, that literally the definition of an SCE product is that it's the drug and the device together are better than either one alone. So once customers understand that this is going to go straight to their label, it becomes a completely different conversation. Now, that wouldn't happen without the regulatory willingness, but a lot of times, as we all know in our industry, it takes both the regulatory guidance or draft guidance and a customer pharma willingness to try these things to really kind of change the space, and that's what we see happening now.
Great, thank you both so much.